Hey everyone, Steve Poplar here. I know a lot of you can be having some bouts of discouragement. If you've been a prepper and been a prepper for a while, when this whole thing went down last year, a lot of you probably thought, "This is it," and you battened down the hatches and you got ready and you were just ready to go. And then it just kind of trickled, and then things seemed to start to, normalize, right? And things have, in a lot of ways, normalized. Not the old normal, but the new normal. And it's just been, we've been constantly lulled for the past year into this idea that if we just do enough, that we're going to get back to the way things were. And here's the simple fact, the fact of all of life, and that is things never go back to the way they were. They always move forward to something new. And that's what we're looking at right now, is we are going forward into something new. And we don't know what that new is going to be. We all have inklings. We see the supply chain stretch to the breaking point, and it's not looking good. We see the stock market, which everything is predicated on. As long as the stock market goes up, everything's okay. But as soon as the stock market starts going down, the whole thing's going to implode. And we just see the stock market is just looking really, really shoddy. The price to earnings valuation of the stocks are just ridiculous. The price to of the S&P to wages is just off the charts, and it's just absolutely ridiculous that if you have a company that makes $100 a month, the fact that someone would pay $1,000 for your company, that's fair, twice 5 years earnings, that's fair. But the fact when you have people bidding $10,000, $20,000 for this little company, right? And I'm just dumbing down the numbers to make it make more sense. But I mean, when you have companies selling at price to future earnings of like 300, 400, 500 times, it's just ridiculous. I mean, they could never possibly earn back the money that you're paying for it, let alone make you money. And so we're seeing all these things. Housing prices are just ridiculous. The amount that people are paying for a house is just off the charts once again. Just one thing after the next. We're just looking at it and we're just saying, this doesn't look right. But we've been waiting for so long for something to happen that it's easy to get lulled into this, well, then I guess nothing bad ever will happen. I don't think anything truly cataclysmic will ever happen. And that's when something crashes, it usually catches everyone by surprise. Who knows? It could be tomorrow. It could be today. Later tonight, everything could start collapsing. Some folks could gather together in a smoke-filled room and decide, all of these bonds that we're holding are actually junk, and we've known that they're junk for a long time, but we're going to get them all off the books on Monday. I mean, that's what happened in 2008. Over the weekend, they just decided, we're going to dump everything. And they did. And the whole thing just came crashing down. And if the Federal Reserve and the U.S. government had just dumped, trillions of buckets of money on things, it would have gone down. So my message is clear. And it's just, it's simple, that don't get discouraged. Keep doing the things you need to do. This whole system has become more immoral. And I don't know where you're coming from, background and belief in God, but I think we can all agree that the system is immoral. The idea that someone who works hard for a living is earning far, far less than somebody who sits on a couch and speculates all day, and provides zero value to the system, they make 100 times what the person who is actually providing a service and actually is providing goods to the system. That we have slave labor putting things together in China for us, while we all sit around and do services for each other, but we're not actually manufacturing anything. We're hardly manufacturing anything in the United States. We're so dependent on China. When it comes to our electrical grid, all of our transformers are built overseas. All these massive transformers that can take a year to replace, they come from overseas. We don't make them here. And you just go down the list of things that we are completely dependent upon. China themselves, they're dependent on factories being built and the factory machines being built by the Germans and by others. But that's a different kind of thing because they have all the hardware and the facilities there to produce whatever we're talking about them making, right? But we in the United States, we've traded this idea of hard work earns you a respectable living. Versus people who are just trying to scam and just pull the wool over everyone else's eyes, and they're making like tons and tons of money. The people in government, I mean, you look at these people like Pelosi and Schumer, and I mean they've been, even Biden himself, I mean they've been working in government for all their lives, and yet somehow they're just uber rich. They're the 1%. And just like, well, how'd they get there? I mean, they're not being paid like they're the 1%, but yet somehow they find all this money growing on trees, you know? Pelosi, before she has a hearing on Amazon, her husband goes out there and buys a whole bunch of Amazon stock. It's just like, seriously? Like, how can an honest person get ahead in this world? An honest person can get ahead in this world the same way that they could get ahead a long time ago. And that's it. They just don't play these games. Don't get involved in the system. If you can hold yourself apart from the system, you get to choose the values in your system. You can create a new system where you are purchasing things from people who have values that are similar to yours. You're selling to people who have values similar to yours. And you can source all your materials and products from people whom you have a common understanding of the world with. And for all that garbage that's going on over there, if you choose not to participate in the system, that is the truest act of rebellion. The Democrats last number of years were kicking around this whole resistance to Trump. And, Trump's not the problem. The system is the problem. The professional governmental employees, the people who don't produce anything, the leeches on the system, the Wall Street people, the people who will buy a company, tear it into its component parts, and liquidate the whole thing just because they bought it at a discounted rate and they can make a cheap buck by tearing the whole thing apart. Those type of people. It's just, yes, you could maybe make a buck doing this, but, do you ever stop and ask the question whether you ought to do that? Whether what you're going to do, is it going to impact other people? I think we all kind of yearn for a more honest way of living, where I go dig up my backyard, I dig up my garden, I work with the ground, I treat the ground honestly. I treat the creatures and the bacteria and the organisms in my soil with respect. I protect them and understand their value, and we work together to produce a harvest. That's a beautiful thing, and I know where my food comes from. I know, who I'm giving that food to. And we just kind of understand that, when we pick up something, in the kitchen, do we know where that item came from? It didn't come from the blacksmith down the street. It came from somewhere. What's its story? What chemicals was it exposed to in its processes? We usually don't even have the first inkling, and I think that we all do yearn for that story that ties things together, that ties our life together, something that we can have a relationship with, people that we can have genuine relationships with, not the checkout cashier at the Wally World who just nods at us and or wants to chat to us about the weather, but real people that we actually know their story, we know who they are, and we know when they're in trouble, and we know how to help them, and we know that when we get into trouble, they're going to help us. That's what we yearn for, and that's what we're working together towards as we start talking about self-sufficiency, creating networks of people who are trying not necessarily just be completely off-grid by themselves, but being into a new grid, if that makes sense. A new grid, a grid that's next to this system, and just coming out of this old system that is so corrupt and so evil into a more honest, relationship-oriented system that we know the people, they know us, and things can be done, once again, with a handshake. Not rules and regulations, red tape, and corporations and tax filings and just all this complicated nightmare things, so that you never actually have to interact with a human being. So I know I'm talking to you over for the internet, but hopefully what I'm saying, you're going, yeah, I agree with you. I know what you're talking about. It's just, how do we get there? And the thing is, start creating things of value. That's the answer. Start creating things of value and connecting with other people who value that, and who they're and those people are creating things of value that you have need of as well, that you can trade with, right? And yeah, you're going to have to use money at first, for sure. You need to connect with people who are raising beef and pork, and maybe you're not into that yet. Find those people in your community who are, give them some money, pay them money to get that, and then you can start looking at what do they need. Maybe I can help out on their farm. Maybe I can find some of their waste product to put in my garden. Just finding these ways to connect and create more and more value out of the systems that we have, and to develop those relationships as we go along, So I know I'm a crazy person. I would love to live the rest of my life without ever touching a paper dollar again. I would love that. And certainly not going to a digital bank. But how do we create those things? First, we need to connect with people and create those things of value and start moving in that direction ourselves. And as we start cutting the lines between us and the system that we're part of, cutting the lines of debt, cutting the lines of needing to be on that system of creating that money so that we can buy the things, but rather so that we can start creating the things ourselves. So hopefully that kind of makes sense to you. Hopefully that's encouraging to you that we can move in that direction, and we need to move in that direction. When we do that, we become more self-sufficient. We have a lot more control over the systems that we have. As we see problems coming down the pike, we can create more food. We can create more resources that we need to prepare for those times, right? All right. Well, please hit that like. Please hit that subscribe button. A lot of you I see are watching videos but aren't subscribers. Please consider subscribing. That way you can find this content a lot easier, and it really helps us out here. And the likes really get us out to more people. If you could comment down below, does that make sense to you? Are you moving that direction? What do you think we need to do to get there? Please hop in the comments below and let's have a conversation. I'm always on there. So, all right, Steve Poplar out.